Okay,
About 15 seconds.
However you'd like.
just follow my lead.
Okay. Okay, Commander.
Okay, we'll call
Okay,
this-
you are live. Roll it.
All right, thank you. We'll call this a special meeting, the public hearing on the affordable housing plan to order. Would you kindly stand and join us in the pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America? I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
do the roll call. Anthony Simonetti,
Present.
Porter McKinnon,
Here.
Eric McPherson,
Here.
Kevin Cosby,
Present.
Chris Palmacy. There's a blank here. I don't know who that is. Who's mystery me? I'm not present. John Angley's present. Bertie Simons.
Here.
And Lorenzo Durante.
Present.
Okay, so we have a full attendance. I'd like to introduce people that are with us tonight to help to expedite this and who were instrumental in writing it. And let me first introduce the chairman of the planning and zoning, Jenny Harger. And Jenny, planning and zoning has approved this plan.
Yes, they have.
The actions taken, they come, per line comes to the order. And you brought with you tonight Alex Rossetti, who's the planning and zoning administrator. And the expert in this area, and we thank you for coming. And then we also have here Corporation Counsel San Sedocio and administrative assistant Kelly Lozano. Our clerk is Donna, what's your last name?
Fonda.
Donna Fonda. And Donna, you've been busy tonight signing up the multitudes that have come to speak. So we're gonna play it pretty much by ear. You have a list?
I have nobody signed in.
Okay, so nobody's signed up yet. So what we'll do is I'd like to start with the consent of the Board of Aldermen by letting Alex Rossetti summarize. Alex has received some questions in advance of tonight, and he's submitted a written response. But if you wouldn't mind summarizing both the plan and summarizing the responses for the questions that you received.
Good evening. I will do my best to summarize this. Not a quick subject or easy subject. I think it's important for everyone who's having these discussions to remember that this is a long-term goal. This is not an immediate action. This is not an immediate plan. There is no overnight switch that we're going to turn on and boom, there's going to be housing for everyone that's affordable and there's going to be, golden rainbow. There is a current housing crisis nationwide, statewide, local wide. The causes are by a variety of things. But the direction by the state has asked every municipality to draft an affordable housing plan. The long-term goal is to have every municipality have 10% of their housing stock recorded as affordable in order to be excluded from an 830G application, which is what most people get excited about, which is the quote unquote affordable housing application, like I'm sure many of you have heard about down on Mohawk. The general goal is just to provide housing that is affordable. Affordable housing means housing that does not consume more than 30% of a household's income. There are a variety of charts and graphs throughout these documents that will show you what 30% of a household's income can look like for someone earning 40, 50, 60, $80,000 a year. You know, and one of the responses I prepared for you guys this evening, a family of four making $80,000 a year, this is on page 2 of my responses, they could not afford a studio apartment in downtown Shelton. A family of four making $80,000 cannot afford a studio apartment. So that kind of summarizes where we are, where the current climate is. A third of current residents in Shelton spend over 30% of their income on housing. And there's a variety of breakdown between rental, people dwelling in rental units and home ownership. But it's not, you can't point to any one demographic, any one particular area. It's a challenge. And the plan is to just help people find housing, and it's not any particular type of housing. One thing that we'll probably see increasing in the next few years is the high demand for senior housing. The baby boomer generation is aging. We need to provide housing for these folks. They may want to downsize. They probably are going to want to age in place, stay near their friends and family, live in town. You know, they may not want the big house anymore. So it's not just about providing a type of housing, it's providing a variety of types of housing for any individual in any socioeconomic class. And that's what the P&Z Commission and our staff and consultants have been working on, is trying to find ways to use state legislative action, private development, you know, see what the city can do to just help in any way possible to increase our affordable housing count. That's kind of the overall goal. There is no one immediate stroke that we're going to take. It's a lot of little tacks. This plan does not cement in stone any one action. It is a recommendation of actions that we should pursue. So when we talk about regulation changes, when we talk about zone changes, when we talk about increasing set-aside developments for incoming projects, or abatements, or so on and so forth, those are all ideas that we have sussed out through a long process that we think are worth our time and worth considering.
Can I just add something? This is I can go. One of the things in the affordable housing plan that I think is stated very clearly in the introduction and the first section, section 3, is that it shows where we are and where we need to be. And at the very end is, as Alex just referred to, the thoughts that we had on how to achieve that particular goal. To put together this particular report was quite an undertaking. First of all, it was mandated by the state of Connecticut that all municipalities in the state have an affordable housing plan. And this wasn't as if we were staff sat down and had to write a high school term paper. This turned out to more like to be a college dissertation. It was luckily we have resources of a number of people on staff that Alex was able to work with to get a number of different graphs and statistics that lend a lot of credence to what is contained in this particular report. And I have to hand it to Alex and the staff for, I think, doing a commendable job because this is a first time. It's not like the plan of conservation and development where you have it already and you just need to update it. This was doing something from scratch. And we did have a number of other towns that we saw that Alex had at his disposal to refer to see how they approached it. But every town is definitely different in what it ended up being. But we tried to get across the point of this is a concept that everybody may not agree upon, but it is something that we definitely need to address. And as Alex, I think one of his last remarks is that this is not something that, as he said, tomorrow, all of a sudden, these are all the things that are going to be regulated in the city of Shelton. They're not. If there are some zone changes or some regulation changes that need to be done, we have to go through the zone change process and have a public hearing ourselves. So this is not an overnight thing, but I think we had some pretty credible strategies that we had put on page 27 as to these are ideas that we hope that the city would consider pursuing. Okay, back to you.
Open to any questions, comments?
I would add to that this is not a new law. This law has been in existence for many years. And the legislature in recent years has expressed a great deal of frustration because of the lack of progress that this law has made. And this year especially, there was much talk up there of making the lack of progress a little bit more punitive if it continues. And that was disturbing discussion. But I think whether you like this law, whether you agree with it or you don't, the intent is good. And I think we ought to give it a best shot to try and make it happen. But also point out at the same time that this is going on, there's other things going on. For instance, the city of Shelton has been ordered and made mandatory that we appoint fair rent commission. So I don't know if all these things are going to work, but I remember years and years ago in New York City, there was, of course, for years down there, they had rent control. But all this is going, addressing issues of housing. And I don't know why, there's such a sudden push. It appears that we're getting people coming to Shelton. They're coming left and right to buy houses. Are they coming out here buying houses because they're affordable here, or because they just want to get out where they are? But there's a lot more to this than what meets the eye. But we're making some progress, and everything with the Fair Rent Commission is mandatory. There was no input. Just this is the rules. This is the law that was passed, and you got to follow it. So we'll do our best. So let's see if let's try the minds of the public and see if they wish to comment. Part of the process, commenting on legislation such as this isn't to comment on whether you like the bill or not. The comment is to understand it, to comment, see what it's about, see if our plan needs to be tweaked in some way. Was there something that we didn't say, or is there something that that's overbearing? Is there something that we should be looking at differently? And that's the kind of the purpose behind seeking public comment. So with that, we'll hold the Alderman their comment, their questions till last, and we'll give the public the opportunity to be heard from first. So is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment? Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment? Well, then, in a way, that's good, because I forgot what the rules were to comment, how long you have and everything else. So I get away with forgetting something. Anyone from the public that wishes to comment? Okay, apparently there's no one from the public that wishes to comment, so how about if we go from the left side, my left side, and just come right across this way, and let the Alderman comment. So, Alderman, can I see your foot?
All right, this plan, I guess, is submitted to someone at the office of the state, correct?
Correct.
Do they have to accept it, or could they reject it?
I don't, well, they might be able to reject it. I doubt they would, but I suppose they could.
I think the requirement is that it has to be on file.
Yeah, it needs to be filed with Office of Policy Management.
So no one really reviews it anyways?
I think I know they review them because I've seen scorecards of other plans. So
Okay.
they are read by a variety of different NGOs, interest groups, housing groups. The plans are read. Are they read by the Office of Policy Management? I would think so, but they do have to be filed.
Okay, were they any, those scorecards you talked about, did we look at them to see like if they marked anything negative that we might be able to make sure that
We don't have one yet, but I have read through other municipal scorecards and have tried to make sure we're not repeating the same mistakes that others have made.
Right, that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
So my only concern was, we have some things about how we feel the state law needs to be changed, and I was wondering how that would go over at the state level. But if you haven't seen things like that in other scorecards, then maybe we don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, can you point to which section you're saying in terms of we should change for state law?
Well,
Maybe I can-
I'm not sure if we need to change it, but like section 4, talks about.
Can you tell me a page number?
Oh, yeah, page 20 at the top.
Yeah.
It talks about how work with state legislators and housing authorities to change current state regulations about mobile homes that are not resident owned, I think.
Yeah, so something like that. We've had a lot of discussion about, basically, I'll summarize it. We have a number of mobile home facilities in town. There's 300 plus units
Right,
that are rented well below any affordable rate.
right,
We don't get credit for that,
right.
period. We don't get any credit. And it's because they're not,
Deed restricted.
Right, yeah,
with that,
No,
I'm not debating whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. What I'm wondering is, to me, a plan is how you work within the state law. Putting into a plan how to change it, I'm just wondering if that would be a negative.
it's just a goal for us to at least have the discussion. Why not? Why not try
I
and,
mean, there's no reason you can't have a discussion whether it's in the plan or not. I'm just looking for pitfalls from the things that might come back on us.
if they, if they want to be upset with us for recommending a valuable change in state legislative to help municipalities lock in affordable units, it's called critique.
Right.
Let's have a microphone check. Everybody roll into the microphone, make sure.
All at once, we can't tell.
I could, yeah, you could hear.
But I'm,
This is not, I can hear it.
All right,
yeah.
Porter?
Yeah.
You finished?
He's still not finished. I mean, I think the part about trying to convert the multiple parts to residents owned is good. Yeah, I mean, to me, when I'm thinking plans, I'm not thinking about how to tell people how to change things, and think about how do we work within it. So, but if you don't think it'll cause us problems, then
We're not the only ones, that's for sure.
right. I'm not saying we're not the only ones that think it could be changed, but I just wondered if it was appropriate, whether the state would knock us for that, but if you don't feel so, then okay. Beyond that, everything looks pretty good. So I don't think I have any further questions.
I don't have any other questions for you other than what you've already answered, so.
The only thing that I would bring up is, on page 27, number 1, offer property owners the ability to basically to have an in-law or an unapproved, we'll just call it an in-law that somehow didn't get on the books, approved at no additional charge, et cetera, for the permitting. I also think because they're going to tie that up as a deed restricted property for 40 years, that we may want to consider some type of a tax abatement or something to that, to make it more enticing to make them do it. I'm looking for a reason to make them do it, as opposed to saying, we'll save you a few $100 and approve the property for you. You're gonna tie it up for 40 years, make it a affordable housing unit as opposed to just a straight rental unit. Maybe we should at least consider some type of a tax incentive. We'll just leave it at that. And that's my only comment. The rest of it looks great.
Open to it.
I just want to see a reason to make them do it as opposed to give them a reason not to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll carrot and stick, but carrot is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Could you explain you said, the state said there's a crisis in housing. Why do they feel there's a crisis? What's the criteria?
I mean, it's not the state, it's the national issue. The kind of starting point for where we are today is post 2008, after the housing collapse. This country went from building something like 8 to 10 million homes a year to about 4 or 3 million homes a year. So we decreased our supply dramatically for basically the past decade. And then we add in my generation, the millennials coming in purchase homes. We add in seniors wanting to downsize and buy smaller homes in competition with my age group. And then we added COVID and shortage supplies on top of that, and people jostling around where they want to live and remote working. And you get a storm event of increasingly high demand for housing and not enough supply. And that's, you can find statistics for that all over the place.
Thank you. You spoke just a little while ago about the mobile homes, and they only can be included in parks owned by the people that are living there.
Correct. We would only get credit. Yeah.
Now, are people who are living in apartments downtown or anywhere in the city, could they be considered affordable housing?
If the unit is deed restricted and the rent and income both aligned with affordable guidelines, yes.
Am I right in saying that they don't own the property?
The
renters don't own the property.
Correct.
The renters don't own the property at the
Correct.
the site. They
Correct.
won't approve them.
The state does not issue credit for rental mobile homes.
Trying to find the logic there.
Yeah.
Is anything the state does have logic?
The key thing with the state with affordable housing units is the deed restriction. The goal is to lock in long-term affordable units, and they do fluctuate with market conditions, but they never fluctuate dramatically beyond general a few percentage points from year to year, unlike the market, which could spike dramatically from year to year. So that would be something, as Alderman Koski brought up, where, if we went to the state and said, hey, look, just like these other rental units, these mobile homes are paying rent, but if we could agree to get them deed restricted, would that count? Can we get some type of credit for it? you know, that's a conversation that I think is worth having.
I took my real estate license, test about 35 years ago. And the first thing the instructor said was, if they can't afford the property, then what's the sense of showing it? Yeah, what was, so, and he was very clear that if they couldn't, they couldn't afford, if their salary wasn't at least 25 to 35% of the cost of the property, then how are they gonna afford it? Okay. So, I think your work here is excellent. I just feel that there's the people who are forcing us into this have no clue how the world works in the capitalistic world. But I think you did an excellent job. The 10%. Let's say that in 20 years we reach the 10%. Does this get pushed aside till it goes down, or is this no? It's going to hang.
Until the laws are changed, we will continue to update this plan every 5 years and keep progressing to offer housing variety and housing that's affordable.
If I'm renting my property on Black Hill Road, and how does someone know if I'm renting it? How does anyone know about the rental?
They don't.
So how can you? I'm trying to
People.
devil's advocate. How can you do the findings if you don't know what each rental
Do
property?
you mean that, how does the city know, or how does someone else in the public know?
Yeah, how does the city know?
The city knows because when you come in to build your property or develop your unit, you will have to record that affordable unit on your land record, and we will keep records of that.
But there's a lot of properties out there that are just rented and that they're not.
Correct. And those are not affordable.
Especially if they're not deed restricted. That's the whole thing. The landlord, the property owner has to agree to a deed restriction.
And just to clarify, when you put this together, and again, I can't compliment you enough on the work you did here. Whoever helped you, whoever worked you, congratulations to them. Were there any contractors or builders or investment people looking at this saying, this doesn't work, that doesn't work for us?
I hear it every day.
Oh, no, but did they help you with this?
No.
No.
You know, this ultimately will cut into the pockets of developers in some capacity. There's no way around it. And in some capacity, it's gonna take a penny out. Our goal is not, you know, people develop real estate to make a living. We are okay with that. That's what our board is in it, to help them do that in a smart, tangible way. But what we tried to do is make it so that it's fair. We're not trying to punish anyone. We're trying to allow for housing to be built that is affordable. And there are a variety of different ways to do it. It doesn't have to be us against them.
I appreciate you saying that, because I feel that sometimes, and I know you didn't write the law in Hartford or wherever this started, but I think it's very unfair to the contractors and the investors that come to the city, shall come to any city and buy a property, develop it, and do an excellent job in providing good, clean housing. And they should be able to do what they want with their property. Somebody shouldn't say, you've got to put 10% away or 20% away for this or for that. But thank you, I'm done.
Can I make one additional comment? The only additional comment, I just wanted to clarify, I think I know how it is, but just the way it sounds. Somebody builds an apartment unit, it's 100 units, an X percentage, doesn't matter what percentage is gonna be affordable. Those could be any units in there, it's a percentage of, it's not like somebody walks down the hall and goes, those are the people in the affordable 1A.
Yeah.
1B, they're paying top dollar.
State
And they're getting the
statute.
exact same unit that the guy that's paying top dollar. It's not the cheapened up unit
That's
with
right.
low end appliances,
Mhm.
no tile floors, et cetera.
Yeah, because of the fact that the tenant has to be reviewed every year. if they're registered as having qualified for an affordable housing unit, they have to have that reviewed every year. And if for some reason they get a pay raise or something happens that their income now pushes them out, then they have to be charged the market rate by the landlord. And for that reason, there are instances that I have read about because I've attended affordable housing seminars online and in person, that some renters are so desperate to keep their rent at an affordable rate that they will refuse a raise. And they do not want to take on a second job because that bumps them up in the income. But as Alderman Simonetti mentioned, it has to be a unit in an apartment house. They all have to be the same. You cannot have quartz countertops in one and Formica in another. That kind of thing, because they change. And if somebody does go out of the affordability kind of category, when another apartment becomes vacant, then that one has to be the one that an affordable has to be the affordable unit.
I understood the concept. I just want to make sure
Yes.
everybody else understood that we were not segregating those units,
No.
that these are the affordable.
Yes,
the other ones are not.
and we have had discussions at commission meetings where a proposal has come up and you sort of got the idea that, well, we're just gonna use the studio ones. No, you cannot do that.
We use the subterranean ones.
Yeah, no.
They have windows.
Can't do that. So I think what Alex can explain too is the emphasis on having affordability in Shelton is to meet the goal that we need to have of 10% of the units in town have to be affordable so that we can gain a moratorium on the acceptance of any 830G applications. And there is another method that Alex can discuss about the points that we get. There's two ways that can work at the same time, but it's a complicated process. It's not cut and dry at all. And one of the things too is when we looked at this a while ago, we were scratching our heads going, how the heck are you going to be able to achieve this? Because every time a new apartment building goes up, that adds to your unit count. So you're always like trying to catch up. So it's the point system is I think is the one that helps. Alex, did you want to mention that while we're on that topic?
Yeah, if you look at the plan, somewhere in the middle of the pages, there's a breakdown of how many points we get per type of unit. And you can read through that at your leisure. It's on page 17. And if we earn enough points in a certain time period, and it's super ahead of our housing census created since 1990, we can go to the courts and ask for a temporary moratorium on the 830G applications. And if we can demonstrate to the courts that we are making significant gains, which, can buy you a little bit of time, but then once you're at that 10% or above, you don't have to ask for, you are already excluded from the 830G applications.
I think if you haven't looked at page 16 in detail, the top half shows ones that we have in town. We have almost 500 in town and the breakdown of how they fall. And one point to note too is that we have approved projects in town with affordable housing numbers, but though there hasn't been a shovel in the ground yet for about 2 or 3 of them. So until those are up and built and certified, we can't include them in our count. And that's what happens every so often. Since I've been on the commission, we have approved commercial projects, residential or straight commercial retail, and the idea goes on the back burner for a number of reasons. So.
Could you, I'm sorry, I have a question. Congregate housing, what is congregate housing? What would be a congregate housing example? You're saying we have 0.
Is that on page 16?
Top of the second column.
over there.
I believe that's the type of housing, there's a good chart, again, on another page that shows there's various types of housing, where you have single family housing on one end, and then on the opposite end, you have mid-level sky rises, apartment type buildings. In the middle would be something like congregate housing, where you have maybe 2 or 3 homes stacked together in a congruent nature. But I can look up that definition for you and get back to you.
What is, trying to. What is,
Let me just correct that, I was wrong. Congregate housing provides heavily subsidized housing with service such as personal care, medication administration, and meals to elderly residents. It's basically assisted living, sorry, yeah,
Mhm.
It's like an assistant.
that'd be an issue.
I was thinking of congruent
We
housing.
have that in Shaw. We have Bright View. We have,
True, but some of them have not been identified as
Or-
such, and that's,
Or they are under other categories
mhm,
of affordable housing.
yeah.
So elderly is about height. And that'd be elderly, is to the line.
I have an Excel sheet, breakdown from the state that I'm happy to share with folks, if you want to go through project by project.
Is there any onus on the state to update the, on a certain basis, the, income levels to people that are affording, you know, where they set that percentage of 30%?
They do it every year.
It is an
Every
annual-
spring, there's a publication. They update the rental rates and the rental rates and the income rates, because they both have to line up.
Thank you. Yeah.
I really wish the more Mr.
Are you finished? Go ahead.
You had mentioned section 8, and I'm looking in here, under the federally subsidized. Because to me, the number here is, looks like it says 95 units. It seems like that is a little low, and are we getting credit for that? Is that included in the affordable housing?
Yes, so individuals that have the typical section 8 voucher.
Yeah.
Those are, the town has zero involvement with that. It's just done on an individual basis. The state tracks that, and this is updated in 2020, so. If that's what they have reported, and that's what we've got.
Okay,
Mhm.
so we do get credit for that, okay. We did talk about the Alderman Simonetti mentioned the Cindy Ball Heights, we have the Helen DeVoe and
Mhm.
we're credited for that.
Yes,
No, we are. Is there a cap? Let's say within 5 years, we reach that 10%. Is the state capping that, or they're gonna say, oh, we want more?
there is no cap, and many towns have, not many, there are about 33 towns that have more than 10%, and those are the towns that don't have to worry about the Mohawk applications, the 830G applications.
Right.
So it behooves us to get to that 10%. And you don't have to try and get to 80%, but stay above the state minimum. And we'll be in their good graces and kind of save ourselves from having to deal with headache projects.
Yeah, I look down the road, say within 10 years, we get to 15%, then the state moves the line and says, oh, we want even more than that.
Yeah, that's
So
nature.
that's out of our control.
Because that's the problem.
Mhm.
Because I think, to Alderman Simonetti point, we talked about, I know we're not being punitive. And I know a lot of work went into this. It's a tremendous task. But to his point, I think the state is punitive. Because I see, because I took the real estate course as well. And I see where there's the issue of what happened to free market. Because they're saying you gotta do this, and so let's say I'm a builder, and I come and you say, well, are you gonna deed restrict or whatever? I say no. What happens to me? I get rejected?
Yeah,
If you are a developer and you do not agree to build affordable units,
Right,
you may get rejected by the commission for a variety of reasons, but that may be one of them. We are also pursuing other avenues to see if we can find a way to incentivize builders to contribute to affordable housing without doing set aside units, but there's nothing set in stone yet.
yeah, it's to cut, not so much cut them off the pass, but to get that
right,
not be an issue
right.
and to
Okay.
work with them ahead of time.
Right. I had asked for, because it's hard to really, when you look at this. We have a map, I know it's up in the zoning office, with the, with all the residential development
Mhm.
and everything. So if this, we adopt this, are there gonna be, it's gonna fall within these R zones? Or are they gonna have a different designation instead of R1A or whatever? It'll fall within this.
Adopting this plan does not change any zone. It applies to the city.
Right, okay,
It doesn't change anything on the zone map.
okay, so, that's what, I always said, for me to see it on the map, I think it would have been better for the board to see just where like all of our residential R1, R2, R3, R4, R5,
Mhm.
where they're located on the map. That's what I was hoping to see.
Isn't there another map hanging right here in the
There is a map in 104.
104 on the
If
wall?
people want to take a look.
Yeah,
There's one online. There's one in the shell.
And
note.
then you get the plan development districts it overlay.
Exactly right, yeah. That's why I say it's, when you see all of this on the map, I think at least would give all of us a better idea.
yeah, it's color coded.
Yeah, as to, as opposed to the downtown area, is it gonna be this area over here?
It won't be in any,
Is it gonna be evenly spread, is what I'm asking.
it depends how it all fizzles out. That is the goal, to have it spread out and not drive by a certain area in town and say, oh, that's where the poor people live. That's not the goal.
Mhm.
The goal is to have
Okay,
accessory dwelling units, that people have a unit above their
Right.
garage. You're never gonna notice that. Those would be spread throughout town. You'll have
yeah,
a couple units spread out in each apartment complex, a couple units in each city project. You'll have a couple units sold as condo projects. I mean, you go on and on. The point is to spread it out so it's not a visual impact and doesn't affect the character of any one neighborhood.
Mhm. One of the things on page 25, Alderman McPherson, is the map that shows the central business district, and there's been discussion as to expanding that. And I personally have had discussions with staff that I'm not sure if that is the way to go. I think we need to sit down and hash this out. I have a feeling that it can almost be a case by case basis citywide. It's because, I was talking to Alex. I had said, if we got in the car and drove up Bridgeport Avenue, we said, all right, what if we push this boundary up to this particular street, say Constitution Boulevard, but then we go across the highway and then we hit Long Hill Avenue and Main Street and go down Main Street. Okay, let's back it up to there. But then that goes down by Trinity Episcopal Church, and up on the hill is all Quorum Gardens. Well, should we not include them? Should we go down Constitution Boulevard, take a left to Plaskin Drive and go up to Long Hill or Quorum Road? Going the other way, going up from the center of Shelton up to Riverview Park. At one point, the suggestion was, well, we just ended at Library Hill. Nah, not necessarily. If you kept going up to Wheeler Street, for heaven's sakes, and you go up Wheeler, in which is your neighborhood,
right.
There's multiple multifamily homes there.
We actually drive it.
Yeah.
Precisely.
So, that's
60.
when I said, why are we limiting ourselves and why tying it into the central business district?
Right.
Maybe it needs to be a new residential district
I would
altogether
agree with
or
that,
something.
because that would be a concern for me.
Mhm.
If it was done like that.
Yeah.
I would be concerned with that.
Yeah, there would be standards that would be
Yep.
developed that they would have to adhere to, and if they
Because
don't,
Foreign Gardens is one of our oldest neighborhoods,
it is, yeah.
and everything, so, you know, I would agree with that sentiment.
Yeah, even if you go down. What's the road where, on the side of Walgreens going to Stratford, down to
Oh,
Sikorsky?
Armstrong Road that way?
No, down where Hilton Garden is,
Oh, yeah.
Old Stratford
Yeah,
Road.
Old
Okay, you come
Stratford,
to an intersection where the family has a old bamboo, take a right. There's some houses there that you say to yourself, you're almost in Stratford. Geez, you know, these could technically be ones if they were deed restricted and they met the other
Exactly.
criteria. So it's anywhere in town
Yeah,
that
exactly.
potentially could have the ability to do that. So,
And just my final question is, the big cities, New Haven, Hartford, Waterbury, Norwalk, Stanford, and all that.
hmm,
They're, I think it's what you said earlier, they're above their,
Many of them are.
are their requirements. Okay.
and that is any particular reason?
There are a variety of ways to get above that threshold. We spelled it out on here. You can do a combination of government assisted housing with Section 8 HUD grants, low income housing tax credits, deed restricted units. I mean, I could go on and on. There's a variety of pathways to get affordable housing credits, and those large towns, cities, they have used all of those to their advantage.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
One of the things I want to point out is a lot of people get hung up on the word affordable housing. This is
Right.
really workforce housing. And it's,
Say that again, please.
a lot of people get hung up on something called affordable housing. This what we're trying to really work with is getting standards for and opportunities for workforce housing. So that you have someone who is in an entry-level job and they don't want to live with mom and dad. They want to live with a buddy from college. You know, how the two of them can afford an apartment somewhere. So,
You don't want a frat house though.
yeah, that's up to the landlord to manage that, not up to us. So,
No, I think it's a good point because, a lot of people do get hung up on that.
yeah, their perception is not
Right.
entirely correct.
And that's
That's
something I think, and I know your commission and, you know, the planning and zoning, the staff and everybody. And I know that we're working to, you know, get beyond that type of,
Mhm.
you know, confusion with people. And just to, one last point was, you know, we talked about some of the causes. It just seems that within the last couple of years, this has really become an issue. But I think, you know, we have to mention too, that, you know, during the pandemic, people were fleeing out of New York in droves. Coming here because you would see numerous, you know, cars out of New York coming here. That stop, you know, paying 50 and 60,000 above asking price, which drove everything through the roof. And that really should be included in one of the causes of all of this. You know, I mean, I had people stop at my house, we'll give you 50,000 more, really? Okay, you know. And all of them out of state, New York, New Jersey. I've seen it on my own road. They came in and paid 60,000 above the asking price of a house, 4 houses down from me. So, that certainly has played into the one of the major causes of this shortage that we have now. I have nothing further, but thank you very much for your work and.
Before we go on, one of the things that struck me was 48 years ago, my husband and I were getting married and my parents had a home on Congress Avenue. It's no longer in the family. And upstairs was an apartment that had been intended to be a single family ranch style home. But when it was being built, my grandfather apparently approached my mother and said, geez, if you and my dad wanted to live upstairs, he'd had an apartment on and got approved and they did it. And I think a lot of families could relate to a number of years ago when a son or a daughter got married. And the parents had a home that was multifamily. They lived in one of the apartments. You lived with your family. And that's what it's somewhat like today with younger people who don't want to live with their family, but they need an affordable place to live in. And we went and I had a number of cousins that lived in their parents' homes because that was the affordable way to go at that time. They couldn't afford a down payment and get their own home. So.
It's been echoed, but I feel that I'm obligated to make sure I say thank you for what you guys did. This was really helpful for me. Both on your busy department as well as the volunteers that are doing that work, and they're volunteers. So I just want to make sure that I'm loud and clear, but it's been echoed. A lot of the questions I had were answered. One that stuck out to me. So how do we gauge the quality of life and the quality of services that are being offered by a city who has much more to offer than other cities? And I'll try to put it in the way I was processing this. We have trails, we have Parks and Rec that does a lot. We have a town that's very vibrant. We have builders that when they develop a building, they're putting in a gym, they're thinking forward, there's a study room. How do you get points for those, right? Because they're not just building an apartment and putting as many rooms as possible. They're taking into account, let's put a restaurant downstairs, let's have a gym, let's have a rooftop lounge. So the quality there presents itself a little bit better than other areas that are building. Your opinion, your thoughts, how do you not get points for that or get credit for that?
Where you probably won't get credit for that, but that's just what makes Shelton attractive. That's what makes people want to come live here attractive. That keeps your market strong. And that's points in and of itself in a way.
But as a city doing the best it can for its residents, it's kind of not getting counted for because of the amount of rent that's being asked for right now, right? Because it all stems to, hey, it's 30% of your income, which I just want to follow up to the other question I had. We're taking 30% of somebody's income. So first thing that comes to my mind, 2 people living in a house, only one person works. The other person earns or gets services from the state. Is that hurting us? There's income there, there's bills that are, one of the comments was, or one of the questions and the way we were answering it is, they're choosing between paying for daycare utilities and medical insurances and fresh groceries, right?
They could, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to voice out that, well, if you only have one person working and the other one doesn't choose to go to work.
Yep.
Once again, it's not the fault of the city.
Correct.
It's the lifestyle that they choose to do.
They're gonna be stuck in that cycle.
Right. Is there any kind of pushback on that is available to us or no?
I would think the pushback would be, boy, I don't want to be stuck like this for the rest of my life.
As a resident or as somebody who lives in the area, yeah, but to the state, are they looking at things like that?
Who knows?
I don't think
Like, do you use that as a ammunition for you?
I don't know if there is an incentive for the state to
Care about it.
to push people beyond their skill set or their, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I'm just thinking out loud. I would think self-interest alone would, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. Once again, thanks for the time. I also believe that we are in a situation we are because of seeds that were planted 10, 15 years ago. And so I believe in what we're planting today is to help us long-term. The word was used long-term. I believe in that, but thank you.
before you go, Chris, let me just follow up on that. The process that we're going through tonight, why do you think that we're taking the time to make all these statements? Because you know why? Because the people that enacted these laws up there in Hartford have got a whole bunch of cadre of people that they employ to watch, to get these minutes, to listen to the tape, probably watching this tape right now, to see what our attitude is, number one. Do we embrace this? Are we going to support it? We may not agree with the law, but are we going to support it, or do they have to manage us? There's a guy, they're doing this fair rent thing. They already got people in place they already sat down, listen, get ready, we got training for you. They want to make us good resources down here and make sure that their laws are carried out. And so are we gonna have any impact? You just planted the seed with the guys up there because they're gonna get the word, they're listening, this is gonna be fed back to them. Whether they'll act or not, but they're gonna know what you said. You're fed back. Go ahead, please.
I'd like to also state thank you. This was a really great write-up. One of the things that stood out to me, and perhaps because I am a veteran, I didn't see, I saw the cost burden breakout, the metrics with that, but is at the federal, national level, as well as the state, where is the affordable housing mentioning a veteran anywhere?
So one of the things I know the commission has talked about is having, and a developer can do this, and the commission frequently asks them, when we ask for 15% of a project to be for set aside, hand in hand with the developers, we can say, or they can say, yeah, we want to set priority for vets, for seniors, for first responders, for people with any type of disability, whatever it may be. There isn't anything specifically caught out in affordable plans for veterans. I don't know if the
Don't you
VA.
think that's strange for people that fought for this country or defended this country? We're not even mentioned. I find that pretty bad. I'm just thinking it's something that should be brought on the table. One other question is that I thought about. If you have individuals, if the financial documentation backup is, I would assume, submitted yearly to the state for review to confirm, or to the city, I don't know how that works, to confirm that you're still considered lower income on the scale. What if somebody gets a great promotion 2 months into a new year? Are they obligated with the honor system to tell you, oh, by the way, now my income is pierced where I am, are you going to raise my rent, or do you just wait until the following year? And you know, I'm just thinking outside the box, because historically we all know, I've lived all over the country, and because my background is risk, I just think how do we monitor that these people that do qualify, and we do welcome that because there is a housing shortage everywhere. How do we monitor it? How do we, the government, how are they going to do it? Do they have a plan? Has that been vetted anywhere yet, or is it in the works?
So I'll answer your first point. I'm aware of veterans having a high rate of homelessness and housing challenges. So I will certainly look into that and see if there's anything we can incentivize. Your second point about accountability and monitoring these units. With every project that we approve, the applicants have to designate an administrator for the project. The administrator needs to be someone who is capable of looking at their W-2s and monitoring the state income levels and the rental levels. And they have to supply us, and I would think the state, with reports saying, yes, we have 5 units, and they got to sign it and authorize that, yes, those units are being rented at the agreed upon rates, and that has to be submitted annually.
What's in the appendix?
Yeah, I saw that, but I guess my point is, in this day and age of the digital electronic world and all the things that are done to
Can
circumvent everything, I think there's still a component that is based on the honor system still.
I'm sure someone will try and Photoshop their W-2 or do, I mean, yeah, sky's the limit in terms of people trying to get around things.
So what is the percentage currently with the affordable housing nationally with fraud and abuse? Do we have a metric for that?
I have no idea.
I'm just curious. Okay, thank you.
If I may.
I just have one last
Go ahead.
To Chris's point,
I was just gonna do- go ahead.
income verification, right?
Mhm.
This is, yeah, I'm gonna say, this is part of why we got the housing crisis. Because we did away with that federal government, Dodd-Frank, and when Cuomo was the housing secretary. Because we did away with that, and people couldn't pay and everything else. So now, like she said, someone said, you know, I got a great job now and all that. And they don't report it. Where's the punitive on?
Mhm.
And I think that's something that should be looked at. If someone is not being forthright, they get out of it. In other words, they get a step up. Like Chris said, I got a great job now. I'm no longer in affordable housing. You know, I don't need it or whatever like that, you know.
Or just rent is maybe
Yeah.
what I was thinking
Yeah.
would happen.
What the chair lady had said too is if you know, I don't think most people would lie on their W-2s or 1099s and so forth. But if you go above the income threshold, the tenant or the landlord will likely charge you market rate. You're above the area median income levels. And then the next available unit in that facility will then be rented at an affordable rate. It's always going to be a cycle. I don't think this will be a perfect process. I'm sure there's going to be more discussions and changes. But it's a starting point.
How does the landlord know?
Because the tenant has to give, if you're in an affordable unit, you have to provide your tax information.
Yeah, the statement is in appendix A and B.
If I may. Not only a big brother looking over our shoulders even more with this project.
I mean, you get a nice incentive if you're a tenant and you're paying a couple $100 less per month, then you got to show your W-2s. I mean, that's a trade-off. If you don't want to do that, then just go pay market rate.
Yeah, well, if there's if 100 units are built, 10 are supposed to be affordable or
Mhm.
workforce housing, say, okay, make it a gentler term. Let's say that they rent 95 at the regular rate, people, you know, people are coming in and they've got money and they want to rent them. And nobody shows up for those other 5. Can they rent them at regular rate?
They will not have an issue filling affordable units. There are waiting lists for
Okay.
months and years.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's actually
my issue with-
advertising, I think.
My issue with the affordable housing is that
Yeah,
if it was a house, it's one thing, because if a person has a house, I think they have more skin in the game to want to take care of their home, keep it nice so they can grow the equity in the house, so they have something to use for their retirement or to purchase or to get a loan to put their child through college or to buy a car, whatever. When it's an apartment, I don't think they have the skin in the game with, you know, it's just an apartment. So the door gets scratched by the dog or something like that, they're not gonna care about it. And that's where I feel that the contract, the owner of the property, the manager of the property, put it at a disability, at a disadvantage, pardon me. But the income for the person, is it any income or is it only a W-2 income? So if a person, let's say one person's on a getting insurance payments for an injury, is that included in the income or only the W-2 that one of the other persons brings in?
I don't have an exact answer, but I'm gonna guess that if you're reporting that as income on your taxes, that is income.
Well, workers' comp isn't taxable.
That's just what I was saying.
That's where one of these administrators has to be in charge of that.
And let's be quite honest, in 2008, the housing crisis was caused by federal government, not by us. Okay, the people who can afford their homes, take care of them, they didn't cause this. When you start giving out loans to people that could never pay the loans back, that's where the problem is. So the root of the problem is Washington DC. Let's not gloss over that at all.
We're gonna do that now again.
No, we're not.
Yeah, we are. We're gonna be given a discount. If you're at a certain income and you can afford the house, you're gonna pay a premium on your payment.
Payment.
And if you can't afford the house, they're gonna give you a discount. So you can do it and help you with the down payment.
The brother's hand getting in the way, making a puppet out of it.
The only thing I was gonna say with regard to the income, because I did mortgages for over 18 years. When you're looking at somebody's income, I would assume that they're probably gonna do something or take a look at the W-2. A lot of times, a mortgage, bank will not accept, if you got a bonus that went a particular year, if you can't show you had those bonuses ongoing for at least the past 3 years on a continuous basis, that was not considered. That was considered an aberration in your income, not really considered to be your income, nor would they count that in your ratios when they did it. So you'd have to have your W-2, the last pay stub, like 2 years W-2 is your last pay stub and the last tax return to make a comparison to see, to also try to segregate any cheating from taking place on there. Because then if you did cheat, then you committed fraud because you doctored up all your papers. So there are a lot of checks and balances they could do that I don't think is rocket science to figure out how to control that.
So what we're saying here is that voting has consequences. People you put in office can either make or break your community. That's simple. Or your state or your country. Or your wallet. Empty your wallet.
Okay,
Thank you. I think you guys did a great job.
I think what we've proved here tonight. I better retract that statement. We had no input from the public, but we had no trouble blowing our guts up here since 7 o'clock. So an hour and 10 minutes, just like that, off the cuff. But nevertheless, to summarize,
You should have gone to our meetings.
to summarize, there's a few things. But, you know, I think what we want to do is first recognize the fact that you did an excellent job of putting together this plan from ground zero to where we are today. And I think the Alderman will take this now. We're going to put this on our agenda for the next full board meeting and vote on it then. Okay. You don't need a vote before that, do you? Because I had no agenda. Well, it's going to be, well, what is it, the 11th?
Yeah, next week.
Next week. So next week it'll be. And, but you did a good job putting it together. What you need besides our vote, you need our support. You need our support in helping this to go forward for our people to understand it, because it's not easy. For our people to understand, for our builders to understand also, because they're the key. I mean, this primarily is apartment living as opposed to homeowner living. And if the builders say they're not going to come here, they're not going to build, then we have no plan to implement. So I mean, it's a delicate balance. And I think planning and zoning has shown its sensitivities to the issue, and you've done a great job of bringing it along. Most people, when they first heard about it, you know, were up in arms and what could this be and how could it? But give it a chance and we'll work. We've got a comprehensive plan of development and what was it?
Yep.
What's the title exactly?
COPD, Comprehensive Plan Development. You got it.
Yeah, that's what we got. And that's been a goal. We've been following that goal for it seems like hundreds of years.
Yeah, those are guidelines.
And I think the key here is that what you put together for us, and we're going to endorse. But what you put together is a goal, a plan to work toward.
Mhm.
You know, nobody's perfect, nobody's gonna get there right away, but we'll keep working, and we're committed to work on it, and I think we should be. I think that's the best way that we can help the state implement what they're trying to do.
Mhm.
And you know, and call a spade a spade. Those people up there that passed this law years and years ago, and it has not been received too well on the local level. People have not made a good faith effort. And I think it's time we made a good faith effort, and I think we're committed to that.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all you did.
You're welcome.
Thank you. A motion to adjourn.
Second,
Motion.
you see the motion that I said.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks, Alan.